countdown has begun. We are officially underway the moment we see one of the players begin their race on the screen. And here we go.
So yeah, so we talked about it right away. First is Game Boy is using a Strength Agility build, and Mr. Homes is using a Strength HP build, which means those stats will start off higher, or will end higher but start lower than what the average would be.
We see high gold and a silver harp to start. Having the silver harp is nice from the start just because it means when you find the shrine cave, you don't have to look for the silver harp later to get the Staff of Rain. Just one less step for the players to go through.
Oh yeah, and you'll notice right away that Mr. Homes went back up to save because he doesn't know what's outside and he doesn't want to lose his money by dying. And we notice right outside is a town, but Game Boy seems to have run into a little trouble.
It would have been very unfortunate. Oh man, he still might not make it. Look at this. So he resets immediately. Oh yeah, he didn't lose really much time by resetting. And that's a good thing because Garringham is the first town, and they can buy a hand axe for 560. And sure enough, it is there.
Now, what's in the gold chest here is randomized, and you'll notice Game Boy only got 559 instead of 560, and he instantly reset knowing that, hey, I need at least 560 in a chest if I'm going to go ahead and get an actual weapon, assuming that there's a hand axe in the town.
Definitely a brutal gold draw on the lower end of the spectrum of what that treasure chest can offer, and he made the right decision for sure, knowing that a town was there to go for 560 plus.
Yep, this time he got 725, which is a much better draw.
So he'll be able to get that small shield as well, and also a few herbs or the dragon scale, torches, whatever he wants.
Yeah, it looked like Mr. Homes went ahead and stocked up on supplies, and he's now doing his early slime grind to try to get some experience.
So with both players having hand axes, obviously things aren't going to be as swift as the exhibition race we saw with Hurtmore, but starting with the hand axe, players are going to be able to fight a wide variety of enemies and get underway with level grinding very swiftly.
Yeah, the hand axe does help, but they still started off with really bad stats, so they really can't like attack anything that's much higher than a Draki. Or they could probably get to a Scorpion, not with 11 health. They can't get to a Scorpion. So yeah, they got to get at least a level or two to be able to handle the next tier of monsters, which is what Mr. Homes just got.
Mr. Homes has the heal spell and Radiant as well.
Yep, thanks to that 5 strength, he can actually take out the Scorpion, because you'll notice on the left side, Game Boy died to a Magician, and Magicians are generally weaker than Scorpions, but that Magician had Fire Breath, so that didn't help out much either.
So Mr. Homes starting off with a very clean grind, getting to level 3 already. There's no serious game that'll put him, tremendously ahead of Game Boy yet, but having a 2-level lead in the early stages is always nice.
Yep, it allows him to leave home faster, and the quicker you leave, the more you can explore and potentially get a game-changing item.
Game Boy took a lot of damage, but he immediately checks for heal, and he does get it. So he won't be moving before he heals, and he'll be able to grind straight to level 3, which is now 1 experience away. Meanwhile, Mr. Homes reaches level 4.
And he gets a huge hit point bonus at that level. And he just finally equipped his dragon scale that he had on him. So the dragon scale is an item that you can equip that just raises your defense by 2 points. It's cheap to buy, and it's an added defense.
Yeah, over time it'll make a small difference. It also potentially protects you against, in certain situations, against lethal damage from the Dragon Lord, so it's a good thing to have just in case.
Yep, 1 dragon scale is half a point less point of damage that you take per hit, physically.
And those averages make a big difference over time.
Yeah, most runs come down to simply 1, 2, 3. That's it. Very low numbers, and you just gotta hope to reach that point.
MisterHomes finds the Jerk Cave, where he'll get the Rainbow Drop later. I talked about the importance of the Fighter's Ring against the Dragon Lord earlier. It makes a big difference getting an extra point of damage per attack. The Dragon Scale, I would say, makes less of a difference, but again, throughout the course of the game, it can make a difference having it the entire time, taking less damage over that entire period.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dragon Scale is not really... It shines through the game and less more on the Dragon Lord, because his damage range are so wild, and half the time he's going to be breathing fire on you anyways, that... I mean, it could help, but it's mostly to get you through the rest of the game.
So you can already see both players are in a very even position. MisterHomes still retains his small experience lead that he got from not having to reset, but ultimately both players are at the same level, and they're defeating enemies that are going to allow them to level up very quickly.
Yeah, they have a lot of health, but they haven't gotten any magic yet. That could be an issue, but you know, I'm shocked that they're still hanging around, but I'm sure with MisterHomes leveling here, he's done hanging around the castle and he's going to explore.
Game Boy finds the Jerk Cave. It does look like MisterHomes is already trying to branch out, trying Sleep on the Metal Scorpion, which seems to be a good use of the spell right now.
Yeah, they have a really high defense, and they don't have a lot of health. They usually average between 16 and 20 health. But they have a lot of defense, so, you know, even with that hand axe and strength in the 20s, they're just not hitting them very hard.
Meanwhile, brave Game Boy attempting to defeat this one without the sleep spell, and he is going to emerge victorious here.
And we got, the Silver Harp Cave, and they have the Silver Harp! So they have one of the key items that they need to get to the final dungeon in the game. The last items that they're going to need is the Erdrick's Token, which can be in one of... Well, it could be anywhere, because that can actually show up in chests. And the other item is the Stones of Sunlight, which will show up in a random chest somewhere. Those three items are what's needed to get to the final dungeon. So this race is a good contrast to the one that was just before this, where, you know, we had Hurt More to start, and we could just demolish everything. These guys actually have to nickel and dime their way through all of these encounters, use sleep, pick and choose what they want to fight, just, you know, so they can try to explore and see some of this map.
I always enjoy the challenge this kind of seed presents, where you're not sure when you're going to gain things that propel you forward, like Erdrick's Sword or Hurt More. But you have a bunch of tools at your disposal, like heal and sleep, that allow you to explore and take chances on mid-range enemies that can pay off in tremendous dividends, where, like right now, for example, if, say, Game Boy were to put a Magiwyvern to sleep and defeat it, I don't think he could really do that right now, but if he did, it would give him an entire level, as opposed to having to fight, say, 3 or so Metal Scorpions.
Oh yeah, that would almost double his experience right now. But yeah, unfortunately that's a very late game enemy. So yeah, this is one of those are the kind of cases where you just put it to sleep and run, because you're guaranteed to run if it falls asleep.
So you can already see the experience has evened out. At this very moment, Game Boy has for the first time taken the experience lead, but MisterHomes gets it right back with the defeat of that wolf and reaches level 6.
They both reach level 6 at the same exact time. Literally word for word.
Yeah.
And,
learning the return spell?
Oh yeah, return. Get you back to the castle, but it looks like Game Boy is choosing to stay and farm. MisterHomes is at least going out and exploring a little bit.
I'm assuming at this moment Game Boy's decision might have to do with something about low MP. He might just figure he wants to finish off this level while he still can, and then when he gets his MP back, he might start moving finally. Yeah,
he might head out here after he stocks up on some herbs and and heals up, and he might be on his way to start seeing what's out there. Well, Mr. Holmes is continuing the search. Hasn't gotten far away from the castle yet, because having no MP means even with the heal spell, you're not going to get very far, because you are going to take a lot of damage.
Mr. Holmes did run away successfully from a blue dragon, and that's going to allow him to finally get a little bit more away from the castle. He finds a metal scorpion, which means not all the enemies out there are treacherous, and we'll see if he manages to find something useful, another town or cave perhaps, before the next large enemy swoops in.
Yeah, right now they have about 17 magic to use. Whew, that's not much, but they are finding a bunch of caves nearby, because Mr. Holmes has another cave. And it's potentially Garingham's grave? Yep, he's got the grave.
So 3 treasure chests accessible immediately. Even if one of them is a magic key, he won't go for the other 2 chests because he's going to want to save that key to allow himself to buy multiple keys.
And he doesn't look very happy running into that thing.
No, that's unfortunate. So he won't even get to check the chests yet, he has to come back. And
thankfully that cave is... Oh yeah, thankfully the cave is nearby. Not too far away, but the red dragon is considered the hardest enemy in the game. But it's also the most experience you're going to get in the game, so... When you can fight them, if they're reasonable to fight later on, you definitely want to kill them.
Yeah, we haven't seen if they have any special abilities that will make them less desirable. We'll have to see later on. We call them the Fun Police because typically when they appear on the overworld, whatever progress you're making, they just shut it down. They're very difficult to run from, they will usually defeat you swiftly, and they tend to be a large problem throughout the deep stages of almost any seed.
Yeah, they're the hardest enemy to run from in the game, and unless you have agility into at least the 90, you don't even have a 50-50 chance to... I think around 90 is when you have a 50-50 chance to run from them, so you can imagine how difficult it is to run when they have 30 agility right now.
So Game Boy has reached level 7 and gets a large boost in strength and HP. Again, not much MP coming.
No, they're going to be stingy with the MP, but... with 43 strength, he is going to start to at least be able to hit some things decently well.
He did learn heal more, but there's not much basis for using it yet with such low HP, so it's not going to help him too much just yet.
Yeah, with only full MP, he can still only cast it twice. So Game Boy is going to find his Silver Harp Cave, and did he forget that he has the silver? Oh, okay. He thought about it for a second and realized, oh yeah, I started off with this thing, didn't I? So Mr. Holmes is going for a Druid Lord, which is a lot of experience, because it's a higher tier monster, and it looked like it only really was casting Stop Spell, which was great for him.
Yeah, Druid Lords are one of the mid-range enemies that are relatively weak for the experience that they give, and so they're very valuable once you can fight them.
So looking at the first 3 chests, we have a Cursed Belt and a couple of torches. And then someone to help him exit the cave quickly.
A little less ungrateful this time, Mr. Holmes is.
Well, when you don't have the outside spell, sometimes you need someone to cast it for you.
So yeah, other than starting with the harp, no large advancements in the early game here. Both players still gradually gaining experience at a decent pace. Lots of mid-range enemies for them to fight now that they've gained a few levels. But ultimately, the moment where exploration comes into play is going to determine what happens next in the next few stages of this race.
Yeah, looking at what we have with nearby with Garingham and the castle, Tentacle Castle, and Garingham's grave, I mean, the next big thing is who finds the first key, because that could be, Erdrick's sword, that could be the big step forward for one of these guys. And it looks like Game Boy is going to be coming up on another cave, too. Or that was that the Rainbow Drop Cave? But I don't know. But it looks like he found a town, though. That's good.
Cantlin!
Home of shopkeepers who don't want you to sell you their wares, and An old man trapped in a glass with glass broken all around him.
There is a silver shield at that first shop. I forgot to mention earlier that that's one of the changes in Randomizer 2.0. That shopkeeper will no longer be able to avoid you and waste your time in the corner.
Oh, he'll still run back and forth and get out of your way. You know that's coming.
Oh, he'll certainly move.
But yeah, you'll be able to buy from him. 2.0 has a couple of quality of life improvements involving people not being where they should be. And oh, Mr. Holmes finds Rimmeldar. He gets the first keys.
This is huge. I was going to mention the harder the seed is, especially early on, the more important it is to find keys before your opponent. I think this could be a big boost for Mr. Holmes, but it all depends on when Game Boy comes across Rimmelder himself.
So he has a lot of chests open to him now in the castle and Garingham. I don't think he's going to go into the grave yet, because for 2 chests, that's a lot of work. But he also has 1 chest here, right inside Rimmeldar.
And then potentially in the cave in Tentagel as well. One herb in the treasure chest in Rimmelder. Always important to check that chest. You never know when it's going to be a key item, or even Erdrick's sword.
Yep, and it looks like Game Boy has found Hawksness with a metal slime. Fortunately, his strength is too high, so it can run away, but he's still... Yep. Well, he had a chance to kill it. But he's going to go ahead and see what's... hopefully see what's blocking the spot, but... Looks like there's a lot of metal slimes in Hawksness. And he's pulling off a little RNG manipulation there with a couple commands. Command, command.
He hopes.
It's way too early to tell who's ahead or who's behind. Game Boy has found a lot more than Mr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes has just found the keys so far. So, you know, it's way too early to tell who's ahead. Experience is extremely close. In fact, it's almost dead on.
This is generally what I like to see out of a race. And it's absolutely true. They're essentially equal in experience. Anytime you're less than 100... apart, you know, after 15 minutes. That's basically just one monster that either player could defeat at any time.
Yeah, and Blue Dragon is guarding the Hawksness spot. That will definitely be a potential farm spot later in the game. Blue Dragons are a lot of experience, and it's fairly easy to get to the point where you can farm them nicely.
Yeah, other than the 3 monsters that give 255 experience, the Blue Dragon is the most valuable enemy.
So Mr. Holmes chose to keep exploring instead of going back to loot all of his chests. And that's a fine idea. Get some knowledge, because you never know how far you're going to go anyways. You could run into something that'll kill you right away.
Game Boy beating a Spectre, which is another one of those mid-range enemies I mentioned that is very weak for the amount of experience it gives, so it's the perfect kind of enemy to fight right now. Meanwhile, he discovers the Fun Police 1 experience point away from level 8.
Oh, and Mr. Holmes finds a giant Huggy Bear, which is not much nicer, but didn't want to let him go for giving him a hug. But it gives him a chance to now search all of these delicious chests. He's hoping to find money to start so he can buy more keys.
And there it is. So here you see the potential for Mr. Holmes to take a big lead depending on what's in the chests and the cave downstairs. Also finding the Stones of Sunlight there. Of course, that's inconsequential because once Game Boy does get keys, he'll pick up the Stones of Sunlight automatically. But it's nice for Mr. Holmes to know that he has it now. As soon as he gets Erdrick's token, he will have access to the Rainbow Drop.
Yep, and even if what's in the basement is like not a cave he can do something with, he does know where Garingham's grave is, and Garingham is right next to him, so he can definitely grind for a silver shield if he wants. But as we say that, Game Boy finds Rimmeldar and the Stones of Sunlight cave in the Stones of Sunlight. So McGrew, not random enough.
The Fighter's Ring is the prize, an extra 2 attack power.
So his next play will probably be check out the Garingham to see what's in the back there, because there's 3 chests plus another cave. Or he's going to go into another random direction and potentially check out something later.
It did not take Game Boy much longer than MisterHomes to find keys at all, so essentially we are still looking at an equal race. Game Boy still has a slight experience lead, MisterHomes a slight exploration key with the keys. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yep, and looks like Game Boy is going into Garingham to use his bounty that he just got. Oh, and that was the right play as Game Boy picks up Erdrick's sword.
Now that could be a tremendous... Well, I mean, MisterHomes is obviously going to find it shortly after, but that's a very nice boost for this situation where neither player has hurt or hurt more, and they're not too strong right now. It's going to be a very big boost for them. It's going to allow them to grind much faster.
Oh yeah, let's hope that MisterHomes... Oh, MisterHomes is still not going to Garingham, though. This is where Game Boy can get in a lead if MisterHomes takes too long to go in there and search for that sword.
It sort of makes you wonder if it just hasn't occurred to MisterHomes that those chests are there. We'll just have to see. You can already see Game Boy was able to immediately fight a Rogue Scorpion, which wasn't an option before that sword. A big boost, and both players are now at level 8.
Yep, and he did try taking out an Armor Knight, but that might be a little too much. But the Armor Knight did have Baby Fire Breath, which is actually something you really like to see, is the Armor Knight have Baby Breath, because he is right up there with the Red Dragon for worst, or candidates for worst monster in the game. The AK-47.
Yeah, once you have Erdrick's armor, the Baby Breath becomes more easy to deal with than actual physical attacks themselves from the Armored Knights. So Game Boy is doing the gold grind early, and if MisterHomes doesn't go into Garingham, you could consider this a fairly large advantage, having both Erdrick's sword and gold for the silver shield.
Oh yeah, and I didn't see if he saw anything else in the town. Is he gonna grind, did he see magic armor in there perhaps? So he would continue his grind. I guess we will find out shortly when he stops. And he's continuing to grind, which means he saw something more than silver shield to buy. Or he's just hoping that there's magic armor in there. So what Game Boy is doing is called basically the infinite chest glitch. The way the game is programmed, it's I don't know if it's a glitch more than it's a programming oversight. But how the game stores chests is it has a stack, an array that holds 8 items, and once you leave a zone, whether it's through teleporting out, casting outside, return, or walking out, the game resets that stack to 0. But there is an oversight where if you die, the game doesn't reset that stack. So what Game Boy did is he opened chests in another place. Where did he open? Garingham. And he died in the swamp cave. So since he never really left Garingham, he had 3 open chests. When you go back to the throne room, you get 3 more chests. The starting 3 chests. The game automatically puts them in the stack, so you can never keep opening them. So that put 6 chests in the stack. Once he opened 2 more, it filled it up. So the game didn't know what to do when it had a 9th chest, because it's when you put one in the stack, the game says, "Okay, get it off the map." So since he overfilled the stack, the game never told him to put the chest away or to remove the chest, so he can just keep opening it as much as he wants.
Yeah, there was basic reasoning for why this is actually possible. I think the programmers wanted to make sure that if you made a mistake, the game wouldn't softlock, so any chest you take, this is the case in Dragon Warrior 2 as well, any key item you take from a chest, the chest will be there again if for some reason you lose it. And then I believe the 8 chest idea just had to do with space limitation in the memory. So
yeah, 8 is the the normal short integer or whatever, or that's how much a byte is. My bad. is, you know, a byte holds 8 slots, so that's probably what they went with.
And that is the reason you'll never see more than 8 treasure chests in a single location. In Tentagel, there are 3 in the throne room, 5 in the treasury, and 1 in the basement. And that trend of 8 or less continues throughout every location in the game.
Yep, and even in Sharlock, the final dungeon, there's 7 in the treasury and 1 in the sword, or the Erdrick sword sack part. So it looks like Game Boy took his well-earned money and bought himself a silver shield and magic armor. And MisterHomes still has not gone into Garenham. He is doing a slow gold grind, and this is going to put him behind a bit. And Game Boy is going to talk to the lonely old man to potentially get some coordinates on an item on the world map. And we have a 31 north, 35 west, which puts him pretty much a little west of where he is right now in Cantlin, so that's a pretty easy one to count out.
A quick suicide for a quick refill so that he can count out the coordinates with full health after. And you're right about MisterHomes. It almost makes me want to question if we actually missed him picking up the sword, because it just doesn't seem like the kind of mistake he would make. And I'm really starting to wonder, you know, is that going to cost him the race single-handedly?
I don't know. Maybe he wrote down the wrong town name or something, or he just doesn't remember that that's actually Garenham. He grinded up 5,000 gold, which is an odd number, unless he's going for a broadsword and full plate armor.
And a large shield. That combination would make sense, yeah. So back to Remolder, he probably did check this shop in advance, so we'll see what he had in mind. Yeah, there's the broadsword and full plate, you're right.
Yep. And he's going to be kind of disappointed when he goes into that town right next to the castle and realizes that there's a fancy sword waiting for him there.
Game Boy counting out his steps towards Erdrick. Well, we don't know if it's Erdrick's armor. I got used to that from the last race.
Yeah.
And it looks like
Well, here's the thing, though, is I don't know if he got lost or realized that there's an ocean between. Yeah. I think what happened is there's an ocean between where he was and where the world slot item is. So either he's counting out going directly west first and then going north instead of going north and then west. And MisterHomes has put a werewolf to sleep to beat him up. That's a lot of experience right there. That gets him level 9 now.
Game Boy finds another cave. Will he even enter it as he's on his way? Generally, if I find a new cave on the way to the map item, I like to make a note of what its coordinates are, and then either go into it right away or come back later.
Yeah, I believe that is the Silver Harp Cave. Because that was directly west of the castle. Yeah, they're not getting a whole lot of MP. They got 22 MP MisterHomes has. They're at level 9. Well, I don't know what he has at level 9 yet, because waiting for the tracker to update, but yeah, they don't have a whole lot. 24 MP. That's not a whole lot. But Game Boy did hit level 9 also.
And Game Boy finds the token on the map.
Now, that does give him every item that he needs to get to the final dungeon. Unfortunately, he needs some levels. And a better set of armor. So Game Boy is literally levels and Erdrick's armor away from getting it. So, where would he find this Erdrick's armor, or perhaps?
Wow, MisterHomes tried to sleep against a wizard. It looks like with the low MP that he has, he might have needed something like that to land, but it was a surprising decision. Spells don't normally work very well against wizards, and I'm not sure what kind of variance there is in Randomizer. There is a little bit of leeway. Sometimes it's easier, But in general, I've found that spells like Sleep and Stop spell do not work, or hurt spells, on an enemy like a wizard.
Well, he was able to take the wizard, but unfortunately hands off the controller as he gets waxed by an Axe Knight. Or a Waxed Knight. Hopefully that Axe Knight knocks some sense into him and he's going to go check the town nearby. So Game Boy is fighting the Demon Knight. The Demon Knight is kind of annoying because he has the highest evade in the game. He evades 25% of attacks. And looks like he wants to go check the Hawksness Square and fight the Blue Dragon. And oh, there goes MisterHomes to Garringham. He's probably going to face Palm when he realizes what's inside this cave.
Okay, so at least now we know, I mean, we did know for sure because we have a lot of people watching it, but now we know for sure that he is going to pick up the sword, and we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, he's a little tilted at getting that sword right there. he doesn't have the most pleasant face on right now.
Looking at their stats, he's not actually that far behind, which is a testament to how well he did with the broadsword and his exploration and everything. But
oh yeah,
Game Boy has reached level 10 now,
and we're gonna find out if he's gonna get that armor. That will put him set to go.
And that is the armor. So Game Boy, does he actually have everything now? I think he does.
He has everything, and the rainbow drop is right next to the castle. So now it's about where does he grind? Unless he is going to look. So here's another option: is he might continue to search for the death necklace, just because. You know, he doesn't have a lot of MP, and he already has a good amount of HP. He might keep searching some chests, especially if he finds the mountain cave.
It's a very good point. With this high HP and being so far off from being able to beat the Dragon Lord despite that, it is fairly likely that the Death Necklace will be usable in this seed. What I imagine will happen is Game Boy will probably build a few levels and approach, and then maybe look for the Death Necklace later, or maybe just hope that he finds it in Sharlock. That's up to him.
But yeah, with the Erdrick's sword, he did open up a few hundred experience point lead. MisterHomes is definitely need to do a little catch up, but you know, the only thing he doesn't have is the shield and Erdrick's armor. Once he finds Hawksness, he should be able to get his armor. So those are, oh yeah, more fun grinding with the Demon Knight. Yay! But yeah, the Death Necklace, for those who don't know, is an item that normally in the game just curses you, and if you're cursed, you can't go back into the castle. The king just throws you out. But McGrew decided to update it a little bit and add a little bit more fun to it in Randomizer. And in Randomizer, it sacrifices 25% of your health to give you 10 attack power, which is potentially 5 more damage in attack. It looks like Game Boy is going to go grinding on Blue Dragons. He's in full-on go mode to try to finish this. The question is, what level will it take to get out of here? And he's still going to be kind of hard to kill that Blue Dragon, considering he has no magic and he doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's still a lot faster grind than a lot of the other things he's going to be fighting.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure if it's the most efficient grind spot, but in general, when you have the option to encounter an enemy every 2 steps, which you do in Hawksness, that generally trumps other factors, and of course the fact that the Blue Dragon gives so much experience, it's still likely that it's worth his time, and the more levels he gets, the easier it's going to be to defeat them faster and to stay longer. So all in all, this is going to be a great grind spot for both players whenever they're ready.
Yeah, the Death Necklace is actually an insanely good item. It really is situational. If you have over 130 health, that 10 attack power can be the difference of winning and not. because you really don't lose anything, except for the potential to get double hits, which even with 130 health is not that high.
A 600 experience lead now for Game Boy, as he's the first to reach level 11 with a 10 power increase and a 20 defense increase. This is going to help his grind tremendously. I think he's going to be very comfortable there now.
Yeah, he outside of magic, his stats are getting awfully close to what he needs to beat the Dragon Lord, but that magic is what's going to hold him back for now. They need healing. I mean, looking at Game Boy, he already has 87 defense at level 11. That's enough to make it so the Dragon Lord can't do more than 48 damage, no matter what. Now, one thing that's interesting, though, is MisterHomes did find Sharlock. I don't know if Game Boy ever found Sharlock. That could be a saving grace later on, that MisterHomes knows where to go, and Game Boy still has to search for it.
It's kind of funny that the largest thing on the map can sometimes elude you. I have had races where, not only did this happen to me, but I wasn't the only one in the race, where I had everything, and I finished grinding, and I suddenly realized that I hadn't actually found Sharlock yet, so I had to do a little searching after that.
Yeah, sometimes the Dragon Lord really stakes out some good property, and it's hard to find him. But it looks like the... Yeah, beachfront or swamp front. Sometimes he's in a nice big giant swamp. But MisterHomes has found the mountain cave. I mean, the best he can hope for out of here is getting the death necklace, and he's fighting specters with Hurtmore.
Just barely surviving with 1 HP. Yeah, it's pretty clear Game Boy, his lead in experience is gradually growing because, of course, he gets to grind in what is now clearly the best spot, and that's probably only going to continue until MisterHomes is ready to grind himself.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's going to be in searching mode until he finds Caitlin. Once he finds Caitlin or Cole, but we know Cole is just going to have a fairy flute. And, oh, he gets to a chest. Oh, but he runs away from the red dragon. And he got the death necklace, too.
So there you go, he did find it. Will it be a determining factor? It all depends on how much HP the players gain. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, with 91 hit points at level 10 for MisterHomes. I mean, it's a possibility that, you know, by the time he gets the magic to do this, Death Necklace might be what saves him. Because, you know, 10 attack power in a Dragon Lord fight can be and make a fight a whole lot faster.
Game Boy reaching level 12 now, and another 6 power, and really generous stats across the board, 6, 8, 9, 10. So yet another, once again we're going to see how much more ease he's going to have as he continues to fight these blue dragons. It's definitely the right place for him to be right now.
And he's hoping to get the off Metal Slime as he tries to leave.
And there's Sharlock on MisterHomes' side. He is the one that has found Sharlock.
Oh yeah, he knows where it is, and Game Boy doesn't, so I wouldn't be shocked if Game Boy eventually goes out and starts looking for it, because he knows he's going to gain experience trying to find Sharlock. Just a matter of when he decides he wants to start looking.
How long can the gigantic property remain hidden?
So one of the big decisions when you're trying to create decide on what stat build you want is, do you want higher agility or higher HP? It's starting to look like the agility in this seed is already going to be fairly high, and MisterHomes going the route of higher hit points might allow him to do the Death Necklace and save him in this race. I mean, he's 1100 experience behind now. I mean, he's fallen behind.
I've gone back and forth between Strength HP and Strength Agility, and ultimately I settled on Strength HP in the end because I was always worried about not having enough HP to beat the Dragon Lord at a certain level when someone else would.
Yeah, I always thought about that too, and, you know, it's like, having that extra couple of agility might give me like an extra 2% chance to run away from a monster. Is that really worth maybe having to grind another level because I don't have the hit points to kill the Dragon Lord?
That's ultimately the question, and all I can say at this point is that there are many very skilled players at the top of the rankings in Dragon Warrior Randomizer who still use Strength Agility, and they use it for a reason, so I can't discount that entirely.
Oh yeah. And I got the Tablet Cave for MisterHomes. It's a freebie chest. No monsters, just stealing Erdrick's lunch money. Life savings.
Life savings. MisterHomes finds a cute little dead end. I was wondering if that was going to lead anywhere or not. That would have been kind of funny to have that little snaking path. I think the way the algorithm generates land, it's pretty uncommon for things like that to happen, but that land generation algorithm has changed for the new version 2.0, and we will see different types of land masses in the future as a result.
Including extra continents, because there can be split continents on 2.0.
That was definitely a change that we all mused about for a long time. McGrew always knew it was a possibility, and he was able to program it relatively easily for the new version. I think it's something we're all looking forward to, because it's yet another added dimension to this already wonderful game. And I think all the changes McGrew has made, you know, whether we knew they would be good or we didn't know immediately, ultimately they've added something to Dragon Warrior Randomizer. Game Boy has now reached level 13, and it looks like he's still nowhere close. He'll continue grinding for now.
Oh no, he's now up to 56 magic, which is still really low. That's only 7 heal mores right now, and I mean, he has the strength to fight the Dragon Lord now. It's just he doesn't have enough heal mores to give him the amount of hits that he needs.
He does as well also have enough HP for the Dragon Lord, but nowhere near enough for the Death Necklace, so not sure if that's going to become a factor or not.
It's looking like MisterHomes just went to the other corner of the map than where all of the actual good stuff is. So that's why it's taken him so long to find everything. Once he starts working his way back here west and northwest, he should be able to find everything and be able to hopefully try to bring this back together. Oh, but he did find a town and a cave. And it's the most disappointing town in the game.
Yeah,
Breckenary. Yeah, I was just gonna say, the only good thing about Breckenary is a cheap inn.
Yeah, I don't think MisterHomes has done the gold grind yet either. Still potentially looking for options from the shops. And I'm not sure what's in this cave. We'll find out.
Probably going to be the Swamp Cave, because I think that's the only one we haven't seen yet. Maybe the other entrance, too.
Game Boy does now have double the experience of MisterHomes, and I just want to briefly mention something that I mentioned in my last tournament match, which was against MisterHomes, and he beat me by, I think it was over 10 minutes. And I pointed out the fact that, you know, you can play well, but sometimes if you explore in a different direction than your opponent, that can make all the difference, and that difference can get magnified over time, which is just what's happening now with Game Boy being settled into that very valuable grind location so early. Ultimately, it's not like MisterHomes could have done something better, you know, sometimes luck is just the factor. It's true that he didn't get the sword right away, but it's also true that Game Boy got luckier in his exploration finding Erdrick's armor sooner.
Yeah, that's what a lot of randomizers come down to, is who goes in the right direction. But yeah, I think the one big mistake he had was not getting the sword, and that probably cost him, potentially 600-700 experience right now.
Yeah, it was about 600, and as I say, we see that that being magnified right now because MisterHomes still has to do exploration, and that's just how it is.
But he is coming to Hawksness, which means if he goes a little far south, he'll find Cantlin, and he'll have all of his gear. And he's counting off with his digits how many attacks he does to a metal slime right now. You can see it on camera. It's been stuck on one for a while.
Always good-spirited about these things, Mr. Holmes is.
Oh yeah, it takes 3 hits to kill a slime. Can he get 3 hits to kill it? It's pretty much a 50-50 chance to hit it. And get wrecked, slime. There's a big boost in experience. And a level.
Nice consolation for Mr. Holmes.
If he can farm that at a high rate, he can catch up.
That's true.
But yeah, with the HP build, I don't think that's going to allow him to leave. No, I don't think that's going to end up allowing him to go 1 level earlier than Game Boy, unfortunately.
I agree.
Well, I guess it really depends. If he can use the Death Necklace because he has the health advantage, you know, having less heal mores, that could be the difference.
So Game Boy gets level 14. It looked pretty inconsequential. Obviously, he's still pretty far off in the MP department. All the other stats are doing pretty well, but just not enough MP. He needs more heal mores to be able to beat the Dragon Lord with his current stats, so he continues to grind. Excellent move.
Oh, if we could just get... Oh, Mr. Holmes is going back in the direction that he came from. Oh, I need him to go back south. I believe south is where Cantlin is going to be. Well, he finds coal, but he's going to be disappointed to know that there's just a flute here.
Right, he has picked up the armor from Hawksness, so it's just a matter of finding Cantlin. And then he'll be all set to grind.
Yep, he just needs that token that's laying off in the middle of the map, where Erdrick accidentally dropped it when he was on his way to dropping off his life savings.
So yeah, despite a disparity in the experience between the two players, throughout this race you will see Mr. Holmes making the best of his situation and playing extremely well, and once he actually finds Cantlin, he'll be doing exactly what Game Boy is doing. He'll be grinding en route to beating the Dragon Lord.
Yes, each seed that they're playing is the same exact level ups and everything. The only difference is based on what their name is, with Game Boy using little f and Mr. Holmes using big Z. That changes what their stats are, and what that means is Game Boy will have more agility, but Mr. Holmes will have more hit points at the higher they level up.
Mr. Holmes continuing to search for Cantlin. He finds a red dragon, and now he's strong enough to defeat any monster in this game, so he is going to fight the red dragon for the massive amount of experience it gives.
Oh yeah, he looked disappointed, but it is 255 experience, and you know, he needs what he can get right now.
So there's about a 2-level difference between the two players, and I feel like that's going to be about where it stands for most of the time. Hopefully Mr. Holmes finds Cantlin very soon. You never know how exploration's going to go. It looks like he's finding a good mix of very valuable enemies on the way, though, which is always nice.
And I thought that's Cantlin that he's... Well, no, that's Hawksness. So if he keeps going south a little bit, he'll find Cantlin, and there he goes. And the big question is going to be is how long does it take Game Boy to find Sharlock? Will that be enough time for Mr. Holmes to catch up?
Oh, I forgot about that. It could still be a factor. It's just so amusing to me because Sharlock is so huge. And Game Boy has gotten so lucky to have to do so little exploration to find literally everything other than the Death Necklace. So, for him to have not found Sharlock, it's kind of unusual. But it's very true that because he hasn't explored too much of the map in quantity, it might take him a while to actually find it.
Oh yeah, that could be what Mr. Holmes needs to catch up, because now he's going to count off the steps. Hopefully he goes left first before he goes up. Otherwise, he's going to get stuck on water, which is exactly what he's doing, because it looks like he writes a map down. He makes his own map. So he probably has an idea that he wasn't going to get there going that way.
Yeah, and he knew this area pretty well. We know he's been up this way before, so he's well on his way. He should be able to count this out without difficulty. And then I assume he will head straight to Hawksness, either before or after picking up the Rainbow Drop.
Yeah, it's probably best just to get the rainbow drop when you're back in the castle, because it's right next to the castle. Oh, we got an alert popping up. We got an alert.
I'm really glad MisterHomes decided to do that. He was watching me when I was speedrunning Cabal, and he said that I should make that my follow alert, and I never ended up doing it, so he did, and it's awesome.
Well, he did get his token, so he has everything he needs to now. It's just now a race to kill the Dragon Lord. And in Game Boy's case, find the Dragon Lord. Again, right now, this is the Grand Finals, and Game Boy, this is a double elimination tournament. So Game Boy is the undefeated one, and MisterHomes has a loss. So MisterHomes has to win this race to bring it to a decider. Otherwise, Game Boy will be the grand champion of this season.
I'm looking at Game Boy's stats right now, and it looks like if he had one heal more, maybe two, let's say two for safety, he would be ready to beat the Dragon Lord. So I'm guessing that whatever level 16 offers, I'm guessing it will be enough. It's not guaranteed, but that's my guess as to what will happen.
Yeah, right now he does 9 to 19 damage, which is average, around 14 damage a hit. And right now he has 7 heal more, so yeah, he needs at least, with 8 heal mores averaging 14 a hit, he's still going to come up a little short, but I think he needs 2 heal mores, or he needs a big strength boost with this level. So yeah, one of the big things about the randomizer is trying to figure out when is the right time to go after the Dragon Lord. And one of the, there's a couple things you want to look at. One is your attack power, to realize how much damage that you can do to the Dragon Lord. The Dragon Lord has 150 to 165 health. It's somewhere in there. And how to figure out how much damage you're going to do to the Dragon Lord is you take your attack power and then you minus 100. That's the defense for the Dragon Lord. So if you take his 39 attack power, we can just round it to 140 because that makes it easier. If he had 140 attack power, you minus 100, that leaves 40. Now to figure out what your high damage is, you take half of that. So 20 would be his high damage. And then if you take half of that, you find out what your low damage is. So his damage range with 140 attack power is 10 to 20. With a Dragon Lord that has 150 to 165 health.
Yeah, so ultimately, it looks fairly complicated initially, but you get very used to how to determine whether or not you can beat the Dragon Lord. The main two considerations are your attack power and how many points of magic you have, which determines how many heal mores you have. Typically, you want to have 2 or 3 more attacks. Typically you want to have 2 or so heal mores less than the amount of attacks you need to do to beat the Dragon Lord. So if you need to do 12 attacks to beat the Dragon Lord, you need 9 or 10 heal mores, somewhere in that range. That is the best way to give you a base idea of when you're ready to fight the Dragon Lord, who has anywhere between 150 and 165 HP. And then additionally, you can add other factors. You need at least 97 HP typically to be safe, but if you have more HP than that, you tend to get a slightly larger chance of getting double attacks between heal mores. So if you have, say, on the extreme end, like if you have 120 HP, you're very likely to get more than one double attack against the Dragon Lord, and that means you need less heal mores on average. And then the final factor is your agility, which plays less of a role unless it's very, very low. If it's very low, you have to worry about physical attacks from the Dragon Lord doing slightly more, and if it's in the medium to high range, you still have to worry about what enemies are in Charlock, which determines how easy it is to get to the Dragon Lord without burning off a heal more. That's where it gets a little more complicated, but ultimately it's not as much of a thing to worry about, especially when you're starting out playing this game.
Yep, and so looking ahead, MisterHomes decided to do a Death Warp and a gold grind so he can get a silver shield. And Game Boy looks like he's on the search at level 15 to try to find Charlock, because he knows he's going to get a bunch of experience trying to find it.
It's still amusing to me, this large thing hiding in this map. But yeah, Game Boy, it looks like he's making the right decision. I think he's made the same determination as me, that it's fairly likely that level 16 will be enough, so he's decided to go searching now and hopefully get that level on the way.
Yeah, and even if it's not, you know, like he's still going to be, because of the repel, he's only going to be fighting enemies that give him a bunch of experience, so... You know, he still will gain a lot, and he's already, you know, what, 700 experience, 600 experience away from a level.
Yeah, so making good time, good progress. He's checking on the other side again because Sharlock is so large he might catch a piece of it on the other side.
Yeah, Mr. McGrew in chat is the one who created this, and if you have any questions, I'm sure you can bother him about running your own randomizer. And if nothing is randomized, you can blame him also. So it's off to the blue dragons with his silver shield, which means he'll take a lot less damage from these blue dragons, but he does have quite the experience gap. He's half the experience of Game Boy. So he has quite the gap to make up.
So if our primary interest is to hope for a close race, we can take a look at what factors would make that a possibility. And basically, if every level after 15 gives a very small amount of gains, which affords for very close decisions against whether or not you can beat the Dragon Lord, and if Sharlock has a lot of hard enemies, then it's possible for luck to play more of a factor, and for MisterHomes to catch up should Game Boy try to dive and fail. That's one way that this race could become evened up.
Yeah, that's what he needs. Is he needs to have Game Boy make a risk going in with low MP and not be successful on the Dragon Lord. But Game Boy is one enemy away from reaching 16, which might be the number that he needs to go.
So we get to find out pretty soon. Of course, he still has not found Sharlock. Who knows how far away he is from it at this point. I think he's at least headed in the right direction now. I think he would, like when he was in the top right, he was really far away from it.
Yeah, if he keeps searching on the east side, I think it's east and south is where it is. He should eventually come across it.
No, wasn't it down there?
I think it was down there.
Why did he stop? Has he been there before? I'm
kind
of worried about him now.
He might be following. He might want to check what's up here first. Oh, and he returns back. So he's off to search another direction now to see if he can find it. So this is what MisterHomes needs. He needs Game Boy to get lost trying to find this.
They're 4,500 experience apart, but if Game Boy, with his repel, doesn't find any enemies he can fight, while MisterHomes is steadily grinding, you never know how quickly this could even out.
Yeah, 16 might not be the number. It might have to go to at least 17 to pull this off.
Here we go, level 16 stats. A reminder that at level 16, players learn all of their spells, obviously not a factor here.
So he got no magic, but he got a huge strength boost.
Wow.
He might consider going. What is his, he has 150 attack power, so if he's doing 12 to 25 damage a hit, that would average around, what, 18 or so?
He can do it, and he's found Sharlock.
Yep, and he found Sharlock, so is he gonna go? This is the big question, is he gonna go or not? He has high enough agility that he can run from everything. I'm guessing if he's going to the magic restore here, he's ready to go and try it.
Yeah, so to give you guys an idea on the math, it takes approximately 9 attacks on average to beat the Dragon Lord with these stats, and he does have 7 heal mores. So that's within the range of possibility. He also has a little bit of extra HP. It's probably not enough to hope for multiple double attacks, but it does give him a slight chance of getting one. His agility is reasonably high. I think only Armored Knights and Red Dragons could potentially pose a problem in terms of running on the way. A lot of factors working in his favor.
I'll say also Star Chimeras. Okay, having 90 agility doesn't seem to matter when you come across the Star Chimera.
I've noticed that on more than one occasion.
But yeah, he's going into the final dungeon now. The question is, does he have to burn any heal mores along the way, and will he get out of the Dragon Lord 1 fight with close to full health? Because, you know, if he's not at full health and he loses a double attack in the first round, that could be the difference.
So I am happy to see, especially with an unknown Sharlock ahead of us, that we have what is likely to be a relatively close result. And we'll just see, you can already see there are red dragons on the top 2 floors, so whether or not he'll be able to run from those consistently will determine, play a big part in how easy or hard it is for him to get down to fight the Dragon Lord in the first place.
Yeah, even with like at least about a 50% run chance, every time he fails to run once, that's bam, that's 25-30 damage, and if he gets a string of those together, he has to burn a heal more.
He does have 2 extra heal spells, which can help after he takes a bit of damage, but other than that, he is definitely not going to want to spend any magic or herbs healing on the way down. Ideally, you want to heal just by walking, but if he takes too much damage, he is definitely going to dip into his herb supply just in case.
Oh yeah, he can't afford to go below 56 magic before he gets to the boss. So there is one other aspect too, and that's the Guardian before the Dragon Lord. Every randomizer seed has a Guardian put in just before the Dragon Lord, which consists of one high-level monster. If it ends up being something like a red dragon that can dish out a lot of damage, he might be forced to burn a heal more or all of his herbs just surviving that fight. And Dragon Lord 1 and Dragon Lord 2 can both back attack. And Dragon Lord 2 will probably have about a 30% chance to back attack him.
So Game Boy's luck has been relatively good so far. He got past the first 2 floors. I think he only encountered 2 red dragons and 2 out of 3 successful run attempts. So a very clean top 2 floors overall. And given the fact that he ran from red dragons so successfully, we already know he's going to try and run from Armored Knights. They do have, as we mentioned very early on, they have the baby breath, which no doubt Game Boy is thrilled over right now. You can see he's using it 75% of the time, and there he gets away. It took him longer to run from the Armored Knight than it did from the Red Dragon, which is not indicative of their relative agility. It's just indicative of the wide variance in luck that can happen on a Sharlock dive.
Yeah, and you know, as he failed to run 4 times. If he wasn't using baby breath all 4 times, he may have been close to dead, but yeah, he's not having much luck with these guys, and he's already down to low health, burning herbs.
It hasn't occurred to him yet that he can dip into a heal, even if he wants to save a stop spell for the Guardian before the Dragon Lord. He could still use at least 1 heal and be okay without losing a heal more. I don't think it's occurred to him yet, but that's the first herb he's used, so he's by no means in trouble. He's still a favorite to beat the Dragon Lord at this moment.
But there's something about this bottom floor coming up that just does not like runners. No matter how good or bad your trip down, once you hit that bottom floor, the encounters seem to increase and you seem to run away a lot less.
Yeah, and we've already seen the presence of Armored Knights, so we already know that this bottom floor is by no means free. MisterHomes has reached level 15 and he takes a look at his stats, quickly realizing it's not enough. I assume he will try to go at level 16, but even if he knew he was behind, I don't think level 15 has anywhere near enough to offer him.
So, MisterHomes is actually doing something interesting. He realized that he broke metal slimes. Once you get to 139 attack power, I think it is, or 132 attack power, you're guaranteed to do 1 damage to a metal slime. I believe once you get to 139 or 141, you do enough damage to one-shot him.
So there we see there are also red dragons on the bottom 3 floors, and that makes Sharlock much more dangerous. Game Boy has been stopped. Will he decide to get another level, given that the stats are kind of skimpy? Which, basically what I'm trying to say is if he uses 1 heal more, his chances go down drastically, certainly below 50%. In my opinion, it would be right to try and build another level, given what he knows about Sharlock, but I don't know, he might just try to dive again.
Oh, he's going in the direction to dive, and MisterHomes is not having much luck getting metal slimes to appear. No matter how many appeared earlier for these guys, the moment you start trying to farm them, they decide to go home.
You can't blame him for trying, because it's one attack to defeat them with his current attack power. You just can't blame him for trying. The ones he did defeat were so valuable, and you can see already only 1,500 experience between them. It looks like Game Boy is going to gain his next level on the way down, which makes perfect sense.
Yep, another death by Game Boy, and we're even. But yeah, he's fighting, so I don't think Game Boy is even trying to get to the bottom now, because if he is, he's got to stop fighting the red dragons.
He is using his herbs. He could be hoping for a relatively large gain in attack power or HP or both, so that he won't actually need herbs. But, you know, with no herbs, I mean, it's unlikely that a super large game will happen, and I think he might actually want to leave and get those herbs before he comes back in to even complete the level.
Yeah, MisterHomes is up to 90. He's only 700 experience from a level. I mean, he's gonna go at level 16. We know he's a numbers guy. He's the one guy out of all of us who is like into the numbers, and he will have it calculated and figure out that he will win at level 16 with all of his heal spells. So if he catches up and Game Boy is busy grinding on the way down, this could be what he needs to take the lead.
It could happen. You're seeing it already. Already we have the circumstances for a potentially very close finish.
Yeah, Game Boy is using magic, so he is grinding. That means he's going to be leaving, and 350 experience away from a level for MisterHomes. This could come down to it right at the end. Game Boy still needs 1,200 experience. Well, he'll need about 1,000 experience now after killing that red dragon. But this is coming down to the wire. MisterHomes could take it here with Game Boy grinding a level.
Yeah, looking at their situation right now, if we were to assume that MisterHomes will go at the next level, which of course he will, I'm certain of it, and Game Boy will have to exit to heal, MisterHomes will technically have a lead on the way down. So right now, it all depends on MisterHomes' luck in Charlock on the way to the Dragon Lord. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes.
And he should have a little bit more HP going down too, so with the HP build. His agility will be a little behind though. You know, at 85 agility, he still has like over a 45% chance to run, but yeah, he knows, he's going. He's not hesitating.
He's definitely going to be disappointed when he sees the sheer quantity of Armored Knights and Red Dragons on the top floors and bottom floors. But that doesn't mean he's out of it. He's got a good chance, and it all depends on how the luck favors him on the way.
Yeah, as long as he can do it at 16, he has the lead right now, because Game Boy is going to be there for at least one more Red Dragon after this, and MisterHomes is going to be in there going down, so it's going to come down to who can make it to the Dragon Lord at 100%.
It's pretty cool how close it is, because Game Boy is just getting level 17 now, and with that 6 power and huge agility boost, of course, and 10 MP for 2 more heal mores, he is obviously going to win on his next attempt.
Yeah, Game Boy is pretty much guaranteed to win, because he can burn a heal more or 2 on the way down. So it's just, can MisterHomes get down there without burning any heal mores? I mean, it's coming down to the wire right now.
So yeah, given such a huge divergence early on, we could not have asked for much more from this seed, and that's just the nature of 2 excellent players playing to their maximum potential in such a late tournament race. They're giving it their all. MisterHomes is back where he needs to be, and he's got this one chance. Will he win? Let's find out. Game Boy, of course, not 100% guaranteed to win on his descent now, but I think it's very, very likely.
With 110 agility, he should have like a 60 to 65% chance to run from the big baddies now.
Yeah, ease of running from dangerous enemies, and of course he has at least 1 extra heal more, probably more than that. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but gaining 6 more attack power, it's very likely he could burn off 2 or potentially 3 heal mores.
And I believe he has enough defense to defense break the Dragon Lord 1 fight, so he's not going to take any damage except from Hurt Wars on the Dragon Lord 1. And MisterHomes, oops, accidentally attacked instead of run.
It happens sometimes.
So yeah, MisterHomes is getting a really bad encounter rate right now, and Game Boy is slowly catching up. He's only 2 floors behind.
It's also interesting to note that with MisterHomes' lower agility, he's going to fail to run more often on average, and that means the Game Boy could catch up to him in distance. And that could mean that even at the different levels, we could have both of them fighting the Dragon Lord at the same time, and this could be extremely close.
So yeah, we talk a lot about the Dragon Lord 2 fight. So when you're fighting the Dragon Lord 2, he has 2 attacks, basically. 50% of the time he melees, 50% of the time he does Fire Breath. Fire Breath does 42, 44, 46, or 48 damage. The melee is based on your defense. And usually the goal you want to aim for is 86 defense, because that means the most he can do is 48 with a melee. And that means he can never do more than 48 damage to you, whether it's with a breath attack or a melee. Well, doing the calculation on Game Boy's defense, the most damage he can do is 43 or 44. And that's pretty insane, considering his defense.
Yeah, that also means on the low end he can do as low as 23 for sure. And when you see a 23, especially when you have a little bit above 97 HP, you're going to know that your chances for a double attack are going to increase. Not that Game Boy needs to worry about those if he gets down there with all his heal mores. He's pretty well set right now.
So MisterHomes decides that he doesn't want to try to run from this red dragon and he's just going to kill it. And Game Boy's going through in the dark, but oh man, this is getting close. Game Boy's still a couple floors behind, but we're coming down to the last floors here where we know there's red dragons and stuff, so can MisterHomes make the walk?
MisterHomes uses that first heal I was talking about, keeping a stop spell in reserve. He did use an herb immediately after, so he was thinking exactly along the same lines I was. He finds a red dragon and he gets away.
Yeah, but he got back attack, so he took a whack for that. So who is guarding the Dragon Lord? Who is he paid off to be his bouncer? We'll find out after he runs into some more red dragons.
So if both players do end up fighting the Dragon Lord at the same time, at this point I will assume that Game Boy will win his battle, and we'll keep close track of MisterHomes' damage. His is going to be much closer. He still has 7 heal mores, so he still has a reasonable chance.
Yep, and MisterHomes is getting all of the enemies, and he's getting frustrated with it. Oh boy, they're both on the final floor. His encounter luck has allowed Game Boy to catch up. So who is the Guardian? Someone we haven't seen a whole lot of this run.
It's a good time to have the Fairy Flute.
Which I don't know if Game Boy has, because he never found Cole. So he's definitely going to take damage to the Golem fight.
Right, he'll know he can burn a heal more. And I guess that'll mean his fight will go faster. It might actually work in his favor.
Yeah, because MisterHomes, because he burns so many herbs, he has to use the Fairy Flute. So they're both going to be on the Dragon Lord at the same time right now.
This is it, folks. This is what we were hoping for.
Yeah, can MisterHomes win with his stats? Otherwise, Game Boy... Well, if he can't get away from this red dragon... And MisterHomes finds another red dragon before the Dragon Lord. Oh my goodness.
Another block, and he's going to have to either risk it here or use a heal more. He chooses the safer way, but now, of course, he's going to have to rely on good RNG as his chances against the Dragon Lord drop below 50%. So he's going to be hoping for higher than average damage rolls.
Yep. Oh boy, that red dragon might cost him. But here we go, Dragon Lord 1. He's hoping for stop spells from the Dragon Lord 1, because it's not going to be doing damage to him. Potentially a 2-round Dragon Lord 1 fight, so he probably will use his herb here to hopefully get a stop spell, but no luck.
88 is still reasonable. There's still a chance he could take a physical that's lower than 40.
If he takes a back attack here, he's going to lose. And he didn't get a back attack, so we're going 21 damage for a good start. He needs to be hitting those 20s is what he needs.
Absolutely. Only 5 more heal mores.
Yeah, he needs mid-20s and higher to do this.
There's 46! Wow, another huge one. And he's doing the calculation. I think he's going to attack here. I think he knows he has to.
I know. 47 is risky. He has a 1 in 8 chance of dying.
Yeah, but he makes the right decision. He attacks.
And, ooh, good low damage roll. But he only did 15. Oh, we're both on the Dragon Lord here. Game Boy will be doing more damage, and we'll have more to heal, but Mr. Holmes needs to, he needs some high damage rolls. He can't be rolling these teens.
He's done 80 damage, that's about halfway.
Yeah, but he's 93. Rolling bad. Oh, but he's rolling so bad right now.
2 heal mores left. No prospect of double attacks, unfortunately. There's a 25! He's at 118 now. The chance is alive. Can he get 2 large attacks?
Yes, he's got 3 attacks left he can do. Potentially. And, oh, he rolls a 17.
135! He's in range! He could do it!
Yep, he can do it! He definitely can do it. In 2 attacks, he can do that. The question is, how much health does the Dragon Lord have? He's got 3 attacks! He's done it!
He's done it!
He's done it! He's gonna barely squeak out the victory!
Amazing!
The comeback is real!
And Game Boy's gonna be shocked with the proximity. Game Boy finishing something like 20 seconds behind him.
I know, the comeback is real. And you know what that means? We get a second match because they are now both tied with 1 loss. And he jumps for joy out of his chair. He's clapping. He's having a good time. And he finishes. So Mr. Holmes finished with a 1:16.23. Game Boy finished with a 1:16.37. A 14-second difference.
Game Boy says it's the 4th closest race in tournament history.
Wow, that was amazing. We couldn't ask for a better first match. And like I said, because of that, we're going to have another match to determine who's going to be the champion this season.
Wow. So unfortunately bad luck for Game Boy on his first Dragon Lord attempt. Mr. Holmes at the same level manages to beat the Dragon Lord. 14 seconds between them, and we've got a tiebreaker to end this year's tournament.
Oh yeah, I think we were going to give them a 5 or 10 minute break or so before we set up. Maybe we need to give them a few more minutes to catch their breath, and all of us, because that was amazing. That ending, the comeback, everything. Well, I guess, like you said, we can't ask for anything better for the finals. You know, you want close matches, and we want the decider. We don't want this to end too soon. We need more matches.
Alright, it's sounding like a 5-minute break. I think until then we'll play some background music. Everyone can take a quick break to step away. We'll be right back with the final match of the Grand Finals of this year's Dragon Warrior Randomizer Tournament.